Redditors who went out for cigarettes and never came back. Why did you leave? Where did you go? What is life like for you now? Serious. Throwaway for good reason. I've always lived in an abusive home, both mentally and physically, and never saw a proper way out. I started working at 14 years old in a convenience store for $8 an hour and hid all of the money I made in a locked container in a nearby wooded park area. I did this because my parent would have taken my money if they knew I was working at all. By the time I turned 18, I had close to $10,000 saved up and had finished high school. I was supposed to start university that year, but early on in the summer I waited until my parents went out to work. Found and took all of my documents. Unenrolled out of the university program I was supposed to be in and left. I took a bus to Alberta and I've been living here since, doing labor. It's been a year and a half and they haven't searched for me yet. Not that I'm aware of, at least. How is my life now? I'm poor, barely getting by, but at least I'm living alone and happier than I was before. I have no idea who you are. But know this, I believe that you can do it. I'm rooting for you, dude. So am I. Lived in an abusive house with my mom. Got a job after college and in 3 months rented an apartment and went home. Took a garbage bag full of clothes and booked it. She didn't want me leaving because she was talking all of my money. She would take my car when I didn't pay her my full paycheck. I had to resort to pulling fuses when I parked because she would hide my car on different streets trying to get me fired. Even in college I had finals to graduate and took my car and I had no way to get there. Had to rent a car just to take my finals. God, the stories I could tell. Anyway, waddled in the apartment with my garbage bag and nothing else, slept on the floor and for the first time felt peace. Now have a decent job. House. Wife and a kid. How did she justify hiding your car from you? It seemed like she benefited. In an abusive way, of course. From you having a job. I was living with a very mean and controlling girlfriend. If it wasn't her way or all about her, she threw a fit. One day I had enough and said I was going to the store and just kept driving. I literally drove for 12 hours and showed up at a friend's house 5 states away and asked if I could crash on his couch. I called my boss and said I wanted to quit work. He was pretty cool about it. He knew my girlfriend, and actually set me up with a job in my new city. I have never spoken to my ex since. Soon after my relocation I met my now wife and I could not be in a better relationship. Best thing I ever did. Definition of good guy boss right there. Good for you, man. Yeah, that guy's worth staying in touch with. I left my home like this. One night. I just packed the essentials into my backpack. Walked to a train station and got on a train to Newport News. VA from Pasco. Wow. No one knew I was gone until 3 o'clock the next morning. It was to be with a girl my family was totally 100% against. That was a year ago. It's all working perfectly. I am happier now than I ever have been before. Hey, I'm from Newport News. Glad you're happy, man. It's cool things worked out. I left my abusive husband 7 years ago. I just walked out the door. I never spoke to him again. I had squirreled away money for years. Because he controlled my income. He had this idea that I was miserable because we didn't have children. So he tried to change that by raping me so I would get pregnant. He didn't know I was using birth control. I had resigned my job. So I just left. I couldn't bring children into that life. I went to live with my parents in a different part of the country. Now I live in a different country. I have a kind and loving partner. And we have a daughter. I'm happy most of the time. My family don't tell people where I live. In case he should find out. I don't know what happened to him. I hope he's dead. I don't even. Good for you for getting away. Said I was going to uni. My sister dropped me off at the station. Said my goodbye and left the country. Patents and sisters were abusive and manipulative. Lived in fear for many years since they threatened to shoot me if they found me. I struggled a lot with alcohol for years and self-hurt, but am happily married and don't think of them as family at all. They threatened to shoot you. Geez. Must have been terrible living with them. You should block all communication with them. Once somebody threatens to kill you, that's taking it too far. Left my family close to 5 years ago to move to California to start a new life. I was 400 pounds. Living a lifestyle of prescription drugs and drinking at 17 with my family. I was good in high school and even went to college early, but wasn't able to secure a loan there to continue past the first year. Dropped my shiz life there and came here. It was very rough for a time, but I'm a lot better now. I had some help from my adoptive father but paid my way aside from the ticket here. I live on my own now and manage an office selling printer parts and various other money makers online. I started my own business last year and have been paying out of pocket to continue school here because the college I went to back home wouldn't release my transcript. I've lost a great deal of weight and am away from any unhealthy addictions. My family is for the most part very cross with me. My mother died 2 years ago nearly exactly. I had planned to go back for her birthday tomorrow, incidentally in 2013, but she died 2 weeks prior to it. The only regret I have is leaving that door open. I like to think she'd be proud of where I went. Left home shortly before high school graduation. Awful living situation. My parent was in town and told me to go home while she stayed in town. I went home and packed my stuff and left. Returned the car with a note and no one even bothered to call, text me for a week. Good on you for leaving a bad situation. How are things now? Mom cornered me in the bathroom after chasing me around the house. Told me to punch her when I tried to leave. Punched me instead. I said I'd call the cops. She said she'd do the same as she's done with my ex-stepdad, tell him I punched her and it'd be her word versus mine. Next morning. Got into a broken Ford that was still on her name even though it was mine. Went to get the oil changed. Told the guy how long he thinks the car could make it. He said I'd be lucky to make it, a block wouldn't go into reverse. Among other things. All the same. I thought. I'm only going forward. 3 days later I drove from CA to MD and spent about 5 years without contact. Reconnected. Foolishly thinking people change. People don't change. Last I heard from her, she wanted me to sign over my apartment in Russia so she could sell it and give me the money. I told her I'd happily sign it over, but she didn't need to pretend she'd give me a dime. Like one of the top commenters here, I've also been working since the age of 12. Albeit for much less than 8 per hour when I started paper route etc. Only reconnected because I have sisters, but the brainswashing she's done against me is done. Both sisters suicidal. One is pregnant at age of 18. Failing grades. Neither will take me up on my offers to help I make 50+ per hour tutoring strangers. Sigh. I'm the pariah who left and traveled the world. But I'm a loser because, well, frick this thread. Frick you mom. You're not a loser. Frick your mom. I just hope your sisters will be okay. I kinda did this. Woke up knowing how much of a mistake going to art school in San Francisco was. Called a friend who came to the city later that day and helped me pack my shiz and left. I moved in with a different friend. Got a job the next day. And went from there. I told my roommate when they called a few days later I was in school housing. So I didn't dick them over. And a friend from work the day I left when she called wanting to get some dinner. Never regretted it. Because eventually it led to my spouse and kids. Good thing you figured that out before 6 figures of student loan debt.